Fallout 4 is full of people to kill and underwear to steal. But what if you wanted to do more than just steal someone's underwear? What if you wanted to live in that person's underwear? To find out, we're going to answer the question, can you beat Fallout 4 if you turn into everybody that you kill? Before we go any further, I want to clarify a few things. 1, I do not have an underwear fetish. That one's on you for even suggesting such a thing. 2, you can't actually become any NPCs in Fallout 4. Trust me, I tried. I even tried to use console commands to switch into their bodies, but they rejected my advances just like my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Anderson, rejected my Valentine's cards. With that completely unfair restriction in place, I decided that these are the rules. Any living creature that I kill, I have to eat and completely copy their inventories. And only their inventories. That means that no matter what I kill, from the voluptuous, sensual bloatfly to the vile and disgusting trash can Carla, I have to drop my inventory on the floor and use only what the creature had on them when they died. I can't use any other items in the game at all, turning me more often than not into the most useless scavenger since Rey Skywalker. We are basically the Thing from that sci-fi horror movie that you've probably never seen, so why am I even mentioning it? Character creation is simple enough, considering we are a hostile alien organism bent on assimilating all life in the Commonwealth. I put endurance and charisma to maximum and left strength at 1 because I wouldn't be carrying anything for very long. In retrospect, this was one of the worst decisions I've made since trusting the developers of Valheim to update their game. After resisting the urge to assimilate my wife and child in front of the butler, I confessed my love for this bald guy.
I love you.
And left for an extra long nap and cryosleep before my takeover of the world could begin. A competing cannibal stole my morning snack from me, and I left the vault hungry and more than a little jealous. I made it over to Preston and his roaming band of leeches and started to figure out just how annoying this playthrough was going to be. If you remember, anytime I kill anything, I have to drop my entire inventory and copy theirs. This means opening up the Pip-Boy, dropping every item I have, including my ammo, picking up the gear from the corpse, and then putting it all back on. Yes, every single time, for every single enemy. You're welcome. After rediscovering just how useless pipe weapons are, I was forced to hide inside of a nearby CVS and get jiggy with a deathclaw through the window. I ignored Preston, dressed up in my new skin, and left to make my way towards fresh meat. On the way, I interrupted 2 high schoolers auditioning for Grease and became twice the actor they ever could be by eating both of their legs. A few Shrek cosplay enthusiasts later, I entered Diamond City and began to hunt for the baby that got away. I reluctantly agreed to pose for an article in Men's Weekly, encountered more immortal and inedible robots than should ever be in a game at all, and agreed to go look for Ellie's dad at the corner store, or something. Since you're still thinking about underwear for some reason, here are some action shots of me running around in my natural state during this run. This is how I spend over 90% of the game, pantsless and weaponless, the pinnacle of alien evolution. Into the subway station, I tested my mouse sensitivity on some of the homeless men before eating them and moving deeper into the station. I picked up an umbrella right here for some reason, perhaps clinging in vain to the idea that it might protect me from the storm of bullets, but I was immediately turned into Swiss cheese when the other gangsters saw through my perfect disguise. Eventually, I discovered a power even stronger than the umbrella in the submachine gun. With this, I tore through the rest of the subway and the vault, morphing into different characters from The Godfather before finally getting to one of the hardest bosses in the game, Dino. The biggest problem I had in this run was having to drop all of my ammo every time I swapped inventories, which meant that when I got to Dino, I only had the 32 bullets that I walked in with. Melee didn't work, as Dino had obviously been training for this ambush his entire life. So that meant every single one of those bullets had to hit. After 30 minutes of having my face slammed like your mother on prom night, I eventually managed to put him down and rescued another immortal robot that I couldn't eat. On our way out, I made Skinny regret falling for such a beautiful pair of legs, and then I ate those legs and beat Skinny to death with a baseball bat while wearing a dress. Back in Diamond City, I hired the immortal robot to track down my Grubhub order, attempted to eat the mayor while his guards looked the other way, and left very unsatisfied. This is a lore-friendly playthrough, so I can't metagame characters' races here, okay? I tried again on his secretary, who phased through my bullets like it wasn't even a big deal, and I finally had the scent of the baby back ribs thief. I lost my awesome skinny suit when I killed a pack of rats, barely escaped a bear and some super mutants, and learned that not even hiding on top of a box is safe in this game anymore. Naked and afraid, I entered Fort Hagen for the most painful section of this run. If you remember, I said the word living when I described the rules earlier. That means that I can't eat or loot any of the synths in the entire game, and Fort Hagen is entirely synths. combat was impossible. Fists just don't do enough damage at level 1 strength. And my dog was about as useless as you are right now watching this video. Hiding didn't work because my agility was also level 1, and besides, everybody knows that you can't hide from a robot in a bathroom, you idiot. So, after dying for 3 hours straight, I eventually said screw it and ran through the entire level screaming and praying that they wouldn't hit me. Using the loading screens to cheese my abused dog into healing, I lured a few synths to their deaths against my naked fisting technique, and after 2 hours of dying to every robot in the basement over 100 times, I finally made it through to Kellogg. Fighting Kellogg was awful, but surprisingly easy. His AI gives up searching for you very quickly if you leave his room, so it's just a matter of hiding behind the door and popping out to give him a surprise fisting every few minutes before you can finally, thankfully, eat him. I probably should have conserved the ammunition in his weapon, but I was so upset from the last 5 hours that I blew the heads off of every goddamn synth in the building. I conserved what little ammunition I had left, ate a few passing bandits, and a doctor got all upset at me when I asked her to defile a corpse, like I was the weirdo or something. One memory nonsense sequence later, I was tasked with heading to the glowing sea, where I immediately died from radiation, since it wasn't very impressed with my rippling bod. Now I had to find a way to survive the radiation within the rules of the challenge. I tried to kill a bunch of feral ghouls for Radaway, but they didn't drop any for over an hour, so I gave up on that shit very quickly. No, I was going to need some kind of armored protection, and the only thing I could think of was to find a hazmat suit on a living person that I could eat. There's only one place that I know of in Fallout 4 that has a hazmat suit on a living person, and that's in the chemical lab during the quest Diamond City Blues. So I went back to Diamond City, offered to help a man exterminate his wife's lover, got my facehole rearranged when he pulled a shotgun in the middle of a fair fight like a dick, and moved on to ambush some drug dealers. My bartender's skin suit was a flawless disguise, so my surprise shotgun attack took them, unsurprisingly, by surprise. And I learned the location of the drug lab from a ghoul named Trish, after I promised not to kill her in exchange for the information. I waited until she turned around so it didn't count, saved some of her crusty peach for later, and infiltrated the drug den to steal my hazmat suit. Now that I was properly equipped, I survived the run across the glowing sea and decided to spare Virgil's life for helping me, and definitely not because I was sick of being unarmed all the time. After the struggle of the last 8 hours of playtime, getting through the gunners and the courser fight was no issue at all, as I was finally able to get some good weapons off of the bodies that I was consuming. Once the courser was dealt with, I ate the rest of his friends, left a creepy robot lady in her room because my mom told me not to talk to strangers, and then had to decide who to side with to finish the rest of the game. Since this is, again, a lore-friendly playthrough, it doesn't make any sense for me to side with the Brotherhood, as they'd all be really difficult to eat inside of those metal suits. Instead, we head to the railroad to infiltrate their ranks and prepare for assimilation. I follow their back of the cereal box tier map to their hidden base, and am instantly reminded why I never sign up with the railroad in any playthrough, when they all start being psychotic weirdos. It took me about 20 minutes to get through this opening sequence, because I couldn't stop killing this one guy in the entrance every time he opened his mouth. Anyway, Cleopatra, or a lot of vagina, or whatever her name is, won't help me until I run some errands, so they send me out with another shapeshifter to rescue a donut shop or something incredibly interesting like that. I murdered our contact on site, and Deacon gave me a little nod like it was cool, so I assimilated him while Deacon watched from the corner. Killing robots with no ammo is a lot easier when you have a companion to do all the heavy lifting for you, so it doesn't take long to get whatever insert quest object here that we came for and head back to build the teleporter. Finding the materials and connecting the wires takes me a lot longer than my editing here will ever admit to you, and finally the moment is here. After all of this time, I can get into the Institute and take what was stolen from me.
This is so much to take in.
I know.
But we make do. With Father successfully assimilated and our life goals fulfilled, the only thing left to do is actually beat the game, I guess. And I'll be damned if I'm going to beat the game with Claire and the railroad. So we head back to eat every last one of them. I was going there initially for Glory's minigun, but turns out she's a dirty synth, so I can't eat her. I take my pipe pistol consolation prize and throw on Cassandra's jeans to head back out to the Minutemen, where I embark on the incredibly fascinating journey to recruit 8 settlements in a row. After hours of pointless settlement building, naked synchronized swimming, and deep-throating a power fist, I beat one Mirelurk Queen into a pulp and get the quest to head into the Institute tunnels. At this point, you may be noticing that my health is incredibly low. That's because over the course of the entire 14 hours that this run took, I only ever found 2 radaways and never used a doctor to heal the rads. And there's a section in the Institute tunnels where you have to run past a lot of irradiated barrels. And I was completely naked at this point from killing ghouls, so I absorbed a lot more rads than I wanted to. I ran past as many of the turrets as I could, spent 10 minutes slowly creeping past the sentries outside of the intake pipe, and summoned my own Minutemen army inside of the Institute. I thought at first that I would have an infinite supply of ammo and health, because the Minutemen reinforcements keep spawning while you're inside, but it turns out that Preston gets more than a little bit upset when you start eating his friends and neighbors, so I had to be extra careful and only eat the bodies that I could drag away into the shadows. Preston and the Goon Squad do most of the work, while I munch on all the settlers I recruited for the last few hours, watch a few guerrillas turn the Minutemen's best into soggy Play-Doh, and enter the last worst sequence in the entire game. There are roughly 20 to 30 or so enemies in this room when you spawn in, and I have a grand total of 50 health left at this point. Worse yet, the synth's weapons are turning all of my healing sources into piles of goo that I can't eat or loot, and there's this one mega synth running around with a baton beating the shit out of me. Another few hundred deaths here, one crazy brawl that I thought I might survive if I spammed Alt fast enough, and unsurprisingly, the thing that ended up working was running around the room like an idiot while distracting the synths so the Minutemen could advance into the room. Finally, I make it through the level into the reactor chamber with almost no health left to go on and not nearly enough ammunition to take out anything or anybody of any value. More deaths, more insanity, more running, and more failure. The radiation was too strong inside for me to survive hiding in the reactor, but if I went into the room and tried to run out, my health was too low to survive the lasers cooking me into a Kentucky Fried bitch. Sturgis tried to save me with his teleporter, but he was too slow to be of any use. You might be wondering why I didn't just heal away the radiation burns in the shower, and the answer there is a simple one. It's because I'm a real man, and you should be ashamed of yourself for even suggesting such a thing to me. Instead, I stubbornly refused to adapt my strategy, bashing my face repeatedly against the same wall just as I had time and time again throughout the rest of this run, and eventually managed to plant the bomb, leap over the railing, blinded by the teleportation process, and stumbled into the shielded entranceway that I came from. Once I escaped, I condemned the little robot liar boy to death and left the building, watching in satisfaction as the Institute went up in nuclear fire, and Preston learned that I would never have issued any evacuation order, even if it killed me. I tried to tell him that going down with their ship is the most honorable thing the Institute could have done, but he wasn't having any of it. To appease his whining, I killed him and ate his legs, put on his stupid hat, and beat Fallout 4 as a beautiful alien parasite that turns into anything that I kill.